Check 1 2. Let me know if it's still frozen. Sorry about that. Let me pull this back up here. Um, Here we go.
People working on January 6th. Obviously, he's had to handle what's going on with the Adams case. Ron, do you think Bondi should push him out, make him sort of the scapegoat for everything that has happened, and try to start again?
And issued sort of eloquent public statements.
Let me know if it's still frozen, Andrea.
People, he's firing off letters that
it's
become
good
public in which he says directly it's okay to dismiss a case if it furthers the president's political agenda. This is outrageous stuff. This undermines DOJ's independence. This undermines DOJ's credibility. I know for a fact you don't have to be too close to DOJ to be able to tell people are in an uprising there, and that's the people who have come up and quit and issued sort of eloquent public statements to explain why they're quitting. But it also goes to the hundreds and thousands of rank and file people who work there. The last week has wrought incalculable damage on DOJ. What Pam Bondi needs to do is get control of her own house. She needs to set the priorities of this place. Todd Blanche does too, and not let Emil Bove sort of run the shop on his own, because he's doing a horrific job of that and he's doing real damage.
Yeah, Emil Bove, his name has been on the memos, right? The termination memos that.
Okay, and Hakeem Jeffries is talking about Pam Bondi.
Any of the extremism.
Senator Jeffries, in regards to Attorney General Pam Bondi's announcement yesterday, I want to get your perspective on the Department of Justice lawsuit against Governor Hochul, and what role do you think, if not just the New York congressional delegation, but Democrats in general, what kind of role do you think you need to play in addressing the tensions between state and federal immigration policies if they're going to overreach like this?
I have not had the opportunity to speak with Governor Hochul about this issue or Attorney General Tish James, but I expect that there will be a forceful response to this overreach by the Department of Justice. We will not be intimidated at all, ever, by the Trump administration and anything that these far-right extremists attempt to do to hurt New Yorkers or hurt the American people. We will not be intimidated. What in our record suggests, particularly as it relates to the House of Representatives.
And Pam Bondi, she's the one who's opening who claims to have charges against Letitia James, the Attorney General for NYC for New York City, right? Now, of course, that is the same attorney that filed the charges against Trump and won the suit against Trump for millions, hundreds of millions. He was evading taxes and committing fraud through his company, through Trump, through his business in New York City, through his real estate business for years, and had never been held accountable, right? And so that's why Trump personally goes after her. But Trump has to. His whole political thing is to go after the divide in culture in the U.S., right? The East Coast, which is the old country where the nation was founded, and then the center, right? And then the West, right? And you have some divides there. Then you also have some northern, divides and southern divides still there a little bit, right? Also, they call the mixture of those two the what is it called? The something belt, the Bible Belt, right? Now, so in any case, the lawlessness continues, and now Hakeem Jeffries is, giving his retort of Pam Bondi's claim against Letitia James and other actions.
That this crowd over there will intimidate us. What in our records suggests that? What in 2017? What in 2018?
I think he's also responding to criticism, like people saying that the Democrats are not fighting back strong enough. Listen, y'all, this should not at all be any more about Democrats or Republicans. This should be about American citizens, period. Do you want to have voting rights, or do you not want to have voting rights? Do you want to have a voice in the governance of your country or not? Do you want to have the nation owned controlled by billionaires coupled with the military, or do you want it to be civilian controlled as it has been before? Normally, do you want a civilian controlled military, or do you want it rich people, billionaire controlled, Elon Musk controlled? Even, I mean, because even people that claim to have before said that, they want to have a civil war, and if you don't do this, we're going to have a civil war. Well, what are you going to do about this, Elon Musk? You're going to go to war for Elon Musk? Is that what you're going to do? Because your government, right, the nation, that's something else. Your citizens are being stripped of things they already paid for in advance with blood. And you're going to circumvent that. People died to have a vote. People died to have a Congress, elected officials, so they could have a voice in what is going and what goes on. Your federal tax dollars, what do you think they're for? Do you want to pay federal tax dollars for it to not be used at all? Right now, you're still paying the same tax. Why has Donald Trump not gone in and said, Congress, you better come up with a bill for me right now that says American citizens pay less federal tax than they did under Biden and Harris? Go. And I better have it by this weekend, or all hell is going to break loose. Where are those citizens at? Because look, don't get me wrong, people still got to go to work. People still got to eat. People still got to distribute goods. So if the federal government doesn't want to help people do that, why are you paying federal taxes? If you circumvent Congress, why are you paying federal taxes? They're the ones that mandated you pay it. Why are you, so American citizens, number one, just pound for pound, why would you pay for something you don't get? Why? And when is he going to start cutting congressional members' salaries and benefits since they're not being of any use? See, that would make sense if Congress is not going to do anything to stop this, or do anything, period. Because right now, Congress ain't doing anything. I don't know if you noticed. Congress is not doing anything. The Democrats are the minority group. So I don't buy the complaints. I don't like people complaining about them as the minority. If they're the majority, yeah, but the Republicans are the majority. So the Republicans control the House, Senate, White House, and the courts. They have the majority in the Supreme Court. So this comes down to, is this what Americans want? And Americans better figure out in like 48 hours, do you want this or not? Because the clock is ticking to your choice. Even if you don't make a choice, then it's going to stay. It's going to get, you're going to get more Elon Musk, and you're going to, did you see Trump? This kid, what is this? Hold on 2 seconds. I have to pull this out. There's the kid in there that tells Trump to be quiet or something, like to not, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. It's the most ridiculous thing. But there's a kid in there that tells Trump to, to keep quiet, basically. Where is it? Let me see here. I think he tells him that he's the president or something. He says something like Trump is not the president. Oh, right. Here, let me go to this one.
Some have suggested it certainly seems like he's talking to Trump.
Let's see.
Here's another wacky video.
This is on David Pakman. Let's see.
President, you need to go away. Here's another wacky video where the kid seems to tell Trump, you need to shush your mouth. Look at it one more time.
To restore democracy.
He was speaking to a reporter off camera. Okay, I guess maybe. Let's look at it one more time.
To restore democracy.
he certainly seems like he's speaking to Trump.
And look, what he says, what does he say?
Democracy.
He's maybe, let's look at it one more time.
To restore democracy.
You're not the president. You will have to go away. That's what the boys say. And listen to what Elon Musk just happens to be saying at the same time.
I guess maybe, let's look at it one more time.
To restore democracy.
He's saying to restore democracy. He's saying to restore democracy, right? So he's playing like God, a God role over the government right now. And did you elect for him to restore democracy? Is that what you elected Trump for, to restore democracy? How can you restore democracy when you're not asking for voter suppression to stop, and when you're not asking the 80 million Americans why they're not voting? That's what a president does when they're concerned about low voter turnout. Like Trump, the U.S. has the lowest voter turnout of all Western nations. There's only one nation that's experienced some lower voter turnout than the U.S., and that's Switzerland, and they got universal health care. You know, there's a difference in how the money is being distributed, you know, in Switzerland. People are happy there with the government, which is why a lot of people are voting, because, and also they can have an election any day of the week, by the way, in Switzerland, pretty much more frequently. The citizens have that right also. So the politic works a little different there, but main thing is that universal health care, higher education, that's all free. Now, let's go back to Hakeem Jeffries here.
What in 2019? What in our record suggests, particularly as it relates to the House of Representatives, that this crowd over there will intimidate us? What in our record suggests that? What in 2017? What in 2018? What in 2019? What in 2020? What in 2021? What in 2022? What this year suggests that House Democrats are going to be intimidated by any of the extremism that is coming out of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue?
Somehow, the only money that didn't stop was the money to him and his organization. Now, I don't know how you can have him be the watchdog as well as the guy that is literally living off of the government. If we want to talk about government welfare, it looks like Elon Musk, because it's my understanding that just on yesterday, a new contract was approved for approximately $300 million for Elon Musk.
Once again, she nailed it. Elon Musk is not draining the swamp.
Isn't Congress supposed to appropriate these monies?
He is the swamp. While people who rely on government programs to help them are losing those programs, Musk's companies like SpaceX and Tesla and Starlink are getting billions of dollars in contracts from the government. But don't worry, he's totally unbiased.
But the real issue here is that he's talking a big game about transparency, but he's not being transparent himself. This idea that Elon Musk shouldn't have to do financial disclosures like everybody else who's working in the government is ludicrous. The New York Times.
So he has access to your private, I'm sorry. He has access to your private financing information, but you don't have access to his. You don't know how much he makes. You don't know where he spends his money. You don't know who he pays. You don't know if he gets a check from the Chinese government, a payment from them. You don't know if Putin pays him. You don't know if he pays Russian oligarchs. You don't know anything about Elon Musk, but he has access to all your information.
Website. Well, also when you pull it up, it's empty right now.
And he did it without any congressional approval.
And President Trump said yes.
That means you paid for people to do things, and someone else is claiming you don't need those people to do it. They can do it themselves. One person can do what hundreds.
Yesterday, oh, well, he doesn't need to do it. Caroline.
That's where he's calling the Congress a fraud. He's calling the Senate a fraud, basically.
Levitt has said he doesn't need to do it. The New York Times is reporting that at least 11 of the federal
Elon Musk has removed the U.S. government from its own position, essentially.
agencies that they have gone after have open complaints, over 32 open.
Now, you know, that in itself is likely to trigger, once people realize this, it's likely to trigger some public backlash. But you know, if people want their country back, they better understand they better use their vote and their voice, right? But I think, you know, I have to say, I think the Supreme Court encouraging Trump by passing judgment claiming that the president has more immunity than, you know, has immunity to crimes, essentially. You know, they didn't say it in those words, but essentially they gave him more immunity than any president has ever thought that they've ever had or ever had before. You know, presidents have been kicked out and fired for far less, right? Nixon was forced out far less. This is 1 trillion times more serious than Nixon, right? And yeah, and that even comes off the backs of some, you know, of the Kennedy assassination also. And that's what you can combine those two things together. Is it less than? This is extreme what's going on right now. This is extreme because the persons, you know, that was wanted to remove Kennedy, they didn't want to remove Congress and the Senate, right? But the people that removed Nixon, they didn't want to remove the Congress and the Senate. But this has removed the Congress and the Senate. That is the American people. Purely. There's no greater representation of that.
Complaints into Musk's businesses. Don't the American people deserve to know? He has tens of billions of dollars in government contracts. If you are the Doge master, then open up your own books. That's part of the federal government. They are spending.
And the day Fox News has somebody saying this is the day you right-wingers need to be listening. You MAGA people, because you all came up off of Fox. Fox News hand-fed you all disinformation for years, and now somebody's on their program saying the truth for once. Like this is, but you all ain't gonna hear it. And also, you know, people that think they won't be doing any standing up against this, those are the people that's going to have the worst problem in the end.
To do it. Caroline Levitt has said he doesn't need to do it. The New York Times is reporting that at least 11 of the federal agencies that they have gone after have open complaints, over 32 open complaints into Musk's businesses. Don't the American people deserve to know? He has tens of billions of dollars in government contracts. If you are the Doge master, then open up your own books. That's part of the federal government. They are spending money on Elon Musk
Rich,
and all
what
of
do
his
you say to that?
technology.
Once again, Jessica Tarloff nails it. Why is Musk asking all of these other agencies to be transparent when he himself is not being transparent? Is he going to reveal these contracts and what's going on? Is he going to tell us about it? Is he going to be transparent, or are he and his buddies going to keep deflecting?
If you are trying to conduct audits and figure out where the waste, fraud, and abuse is, I don't know why you would go to some tech guy. In fact, it was only techies that were sitting there at inauguration. We didn't have auditors. I would welcome auditors to come in and do forensic audits. In fact, he sat there in the Oval Office yesterday and he admitted that he was lying and he was using his propaganda machine to do it when he said that we sent millions of dollars to Gaza for condoms. That was a lie. So let me tell you something.
The
We
gentlelady's
elected,
time has expired.
And it is time for
The
us
gentlelady's
to do our
time has
job
expired.
and rein in this rogue actor known
The
as
gentlelady's
Elon
time
Musk.
has
Now, this is a Democratic representative, right? And she's saying, "What's up with the forensic? What's up with the analysis? Like, what's going on? Why doesn't Musk want to reveal his financial information to the public? He wants to know your stuff, and he's claiming he shouldn't have to show you his financial information." I mean, what could be a sign of what could be the dumbest thing on earth to do, but to not want to know who gives him money, who he's beholden to, and who he pays? Why wouldn't you want to know that? But he wants to know that about you, how much money you make, who pays you, who you pay out to, how it works. I mean, that to me is a capitulation of just intelligence entirely. No person could ever make an excuse for that unless you think this man is God himself, which is, also messed up because is God a man anyway? You know what I'm saying? That's also kind of a weird reasoning behind it, But in any case,
That was Marjorie Taylor Greene cutting off Jasmine Crockett when Jasmine Crockett was saying that Elon Musk admitted to lying about us sending $50 million worth of condoms to Gaza and to Hamas.
yeah, I mean, people just spit this Russian disinformation all over the place. In case you don't know what Russian disinformation is, it's their military is broken pretty much. Their economy is broken pretty much, unless Trump helps them out, right? And so they have invested in disinformation more than most people would, because if they invested in weapons, it would cost too much money. You see, so they put a lot more into disinformation than, most people would be prepared for. But in other words, they've created a whole ecosystem where they can spread information, where they have dedicated minds. They go there and think that they're in free and independent media, but there are places where they're just spreading pure propaganda. And it might look real to a lot of people in the beginning because they put a little truth in there, but it's meant to get you to do something that's even worse, or to confuse you, to manipulate you, to get you to think it's something different than what it is. So to get you to focus on that, the lie or the bigger picture that they want you to see, which is a lie, versus what's actually going on. And that has been highly, highly, highly successful in the United States. And the United States let this go on for so long under the guise of freedom of speech. But look, y'all, in today's warfare, disinformation is part of it, right? So you yourself as an individual, even if a corporation doesn't care about the information it puts out because it wants to make money, you should care about what you have to watch and what your kids will watch. And ultimately, you won't have control over, because the algorithms, it's not free choice anymore anyway. So AI and all of this stuff, you should be extremely concerned about manipulation, disinformation, and the loophole of freedom of speech, right? Freedom of, these kind of things, freedom of expression, right? You should be concerned about it because, or especially around your election period years, because, some people have clearly taken lies to be true.
Us when Jasmine Crockett was saying that Elon Musk admitted to lying about us sending $50 million worth of condoms to Gaza and to Hamas. But,
and he spread that lie. That's a Russian lie, disinformation made by the Russian government, along with thousands of other lies that he disseminates on his own platform. And so does Trump. That was a lie, along with thousands of other lies. You can interact with people on social media and they will actually swear it's the truth.
Marge jumped in and cut her off, which, by the way, does that mean that Marge is the head of a committee in Congress? I hope not, but I think yes.
Musk, you said on X that an example of the fraud that you have cited was $50 million of condoms was sent to Gaza. But after fact check this, it apparently Gaza in Mozambique, and the program was to protect them against HIV. So can you correct?
See that? It wasn't in Gaza, in Palestine. It was in Mozambique, another place called Gaza, totally not even connected. And that's a place where the U.S. used aid to help them battle AIDS, the AIDS virus. I mean, that's what it was. It's humanitarian. And the reason why a lot of people end up trading with the U.S., the American corporations, is because of that aid that has already previously they've known the U.S. government for. So that's why a lot of people actually work with the U.S. corporations, because they've had that in their past, an introduction of aid, like help where nobody else was there. But now that's okay. Now, everyone should be giving aid, and many people do. But China's going to ramp up the aid, and the U.S. is going to, have this downsize of their own federal government, while you have an upsize of Elon Musk stock in owning the U.S. government and military complex, right? Because he's one of the beneficiaries of the federal dollars being given out. So he claims to be looking for fraud, but he doesn't want anyone to know his own financial records connected with, these contracts he has and other contracts with other people around the world. What, I got to tell you, American people, everyone can't do everything for you. You have to think for yourself. But if you can't see that this is not democracy, and that this is just some rich people, a rich person who manipulated his way into power because he has the most money, about to take full advantage of your ass. Any American person, Bible Belt, white, Dixieland, blonde hair, blue eyed, Jesus believer, maybe not, maybe. But if you are any one of those types of people and you believe this person, you are dumb as hell. This person cares nothing about you. If you're black and you, for some strange reason, believe this man cares something about you, your ancestors, struggle, anything, how dumb are you? This is exactly what a constitution was made for, to stop people like this from enslaving everybody. Everybody. The 14th Amendment was added later, of course, and that's great. Women got rights. Well, now everybody's there now. Men, black men, others, everybody got their 14th Amendment. Great. That means everybody is free from being a slave now. And this guy wants to reverse it. You see? So he wants to make your citizenship neutral, a neutral factor. He's not even born American. He's from South Africa, coming with his fascist apartheid money. There's people that actually claim Putin was good for Africa, but this is what the Russian government does. This is what people say and complain. They say they support any type of policies, like particularly right-wing fascist ideologies when they're tampering with people's elections. Yes, because those groups tend to be the most extremist. So if you're going to get a bang for your buck, you may as well prop those groups up, right? You may as well, help create a support system for them, right? And that's what these guys do. That's what Elon Musk is an expert at. Obviously, he's learned because he's running Twitter, right? Or X, whatever you want to call it. He's running the disinformation thing. He knows what it is because he has to use it in his business, advertisement. But the information that they're spreading,
the statements, it wasn't sent to Hamas, actually. It was sent to Mozambique, which makes sense why condoms was sent there.
Yeah.
And how can we make sure that all the statements that you said were correct, so we can trust what you're saying?
Well, first of all, some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected. So nobody's going to bat 1,000.
Oh, nobody's
Well, it's corrected, but anyway.
going to bat 1,000. I see. Okay, so Musk is just.
But he's not under any scrutiny at all, actually, because no one's questioning him. Congress isn't questioning him. The Senate is not questioning him. The courts are not questioning him. The people are not questioning him, because if the people were really going to question him, it would be done through demonstrations or through the Congress right about now. And it's not happening through Congress. Congress, the place where it's supposed to happen, it's not happening. So that means the streets is the only place left. The demonstrations is the only thing left. The manifestations is the only thing left, because look, Congress ain't happening. That means nothing is happening officially regarding the U.S. government. Really. I mean, it's happening on the fringes, on the Democratic side, on the fringes, and the minority side. But the minority can't even really get a conversation with the American people alone.
Making things up as he goes, and if he's incorrect, he's going to be like, I'm sorry, you should have held me accountable to it, but we've already announced it.
Keep in mind, only something like 80 million Americans didn't vote this election, plus the suppression of like 4 million additional votes.
I want you to rewind to that video again, and I want you to watch Donald Trump's face at the end when Musk is starting.
Anyway, we saw this, so that was Donald Trump's face. Now let me move over to NBC here.
Today, America's foreign policy leaders are all over in Europe at the Munich Security Conference, where we've been seeing Donald Trump's infamous merit-based hiring play out in all its glory this week. When Pete Hegseth, the Fox News weekend morning host who promised to quit drinking when he became Secretary of Defense, read a statement that appeared to reverse basically 70 years of U.S. foreign policy.
We must start by recognizing that returning to Ukraine's pre-2014 borders is an unrealistic objective. That said, the United States does not believe that NATO membership for Ukraine is a realistic outcome of a negotiated settlement. Instead, any security guarantee must be backed by capable European and non-European troops.
So you saw that, right? You saw that. But at the same time, they're over there. You see the fumbles and the mismanagement that's going on. At the same time, these folks fired federal workers that oversee the nuclear weapons. At the same time, I mean, that they're over there lecturing Europe, right? Let's see here. What is it? Nuclear weapons. Federal workers, man. This is ridiculous. I mean, this is really, 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 really ridiculous. Hold on here.
I mean, it tells us more and more about DOGE task itself with government efficiency, but doesn't know the inner workings of government. These are people who are not government employees, have never served in any level of government before. These are individuals who are slashing and dashing in whatever way that they can. This particular story affects me on a personal level because my cousin received one of those letters. He works there.
And what did it say? How did they phrase it?
Essentially the same way that they did the ones that we heard about 2 weeks ago. It didn't necessarily say exactly when these people would get paid or if they would get paid. It was, today is basically your last day, and to not report back. Extremely short, maybe 3 sentences. And for someone in my cousin's case, who's worked there for well over a decade, almost 2 decades, actually 16 years, at this point, it was a very tragic situation.
Wow. So as you see, while they are there, right? While they are there in Europe, having this conversation, lecturing Europeans about security, U.S. owns nuclear stockpiles were being undermined because these numbskulls know nothing.
After all hell broke loose, Hegseth was forced to make a new statement the next day.
I want to be clear about something as it pertains to NATO membership not being realistic outcome for negotiations. That's something that was stated as part of my remarks here, as part of a coordination.
This guy is the Secretary of Defense. and they fire the people that protect the nuclear arsenal.
With how we're executing
the federal workers at home while they're abroad preaching to Europeans about security.
these ongoing negotiations, which are led by President Trump. So I'm not going to stand at this podium and declare what President Trump will do or won't do. Wait. You're there. You're the Secretary of Defense. You set a policy as the Secretary of Defense working for the president. Now you're like, no, we'll see what Trump does.
Okay, let me ask you this, because we just saw this rather extraordinary press briefing with Elon Musk standing, the president sitting, and he said, I'm going to make mistakes. I might sometimes not say the true thing, but, you guys will tell me that I'm making mistakes, blah, blah, blah. Is this just a big freaking honking mistake that is affecting potentially the nuclear stockpile and the lives of those who have been working there as experts?
I swear. Y'all just really go have these people, these conservatives screaming at me because they're going to say, that's a Republican who disagrees with something that the Trump administration did. Now, when it comes to my larger problem is the attacks on the federal government worker, as if, for one, they don't pay taxes and that they're not voters. Like there's this characterization of federal government workers as lazy. Say all of this is kind of built.
I don't know. This is not pushback enough. I'm sorry, but but in any case, maybe they haven't gotten.
And so this very indiscriminate number, these people exist, these agencies, for a reason. What I would like for the Trump administration to do.
But he's being way too nice because, to be honest, he's giving criticism of the Trump administration. Yes, fantastic. But he seems to, I don't like the fact that they're laughing. I'm not discrediting their critique. I appreciate the critique, but to me it seems more extreme because everyone that's associated with the government is not laughing like this. There's people that are thinking way more serious things and than what they're discussing here. But let me
even in explaining, this whole transparency argument is to do an assessment of what it is that you need. I am very skeptical that they've been able to do in this.
Right, they haven't done anything. And they're overseas lecturing Europeans on security, but they're at home firing the very people that protect the nuclear stockpile. Like, what is wrong with you? There's no coordination. These people haven't done any they're not doing any work. There's processes to hiring and firing. These people have gone all around every normal process and have abandoned all sense of normalcy while they're sending Pete Hegseth abroad to lecture Europeans on security, to lecture the globe on security, when you can't even protect your own nuclear stockpile.
Now you're not executing NATO membership, not being realistic outcome for negotiations. That's something that was stated as part of my remarks here, as part of a coordination with how we're executing.
Is protecting your nuclear stockpile part of the negotiation, goddammit? Dumbass, Pete Hegseth. Yo, Americans are in serious trouble. Like, you all need to understand that you have no leadership in governance right now. That this is not a government. What you're seeing, it's not functioning. You don't have a functioning government right now. American citizens should be very, very afraid.
These ongoing negotiations, which are led by President Trump.
Assessment to see what they need at these agencies before just, as we get 300 here, there's another 400 here, because there is an impact to that. And so what I want to hear from the Trump administration is we've covered all our bases. And it seems here, at least with this particular story, that they didn't. Oh, yeah, just make this.
Well, as the other Republican.
This particular story that they didn't, is he crazy? with loads of particulars. All the stories are like this. This is what I don't get that. See, that's what I'm saying. That is something way too, I don't know, blind. Like, I don't know.
Okay, and I'll do a solid and stand with you.
It's not serious enough, like he's setting a tone for like things are normal and there's a mistake here. No, this is like alert time.
On this one,
This
okay.
is not one mistake.
But it is the risk of the burn it all down approach, and it's the risk of using.
It's not a risk of the burn it all down approach. It's the burn it all down approach.
Ignorance as a tool to burn it all down. There's certainly pressure from those who voted for this, who want things to happen fast. And so DOJ, the Trump administration, is moving quickly, but it comes at the expense of making mistakes. I will say this, though. We also saw that this is kind of like, zero.
And it comes at the risk of doing harm, irreparable harm, not mistakes. When mistakes are made on the government level, they're not mistakes. They're things that harm people. You're either saving lives or you're killing people, or somewhere in between, that. But it's not so clear like he's saying. Well,
zero-based. I will say this, though. We also saw that this is kind of like, zero-based budgeting in a way, right? Where you have to justify some of these agencies and their responsibilities. Members of Congress, nothing is a sacred cow. Members of Congress made calls, they complained, they made the case, voila, it was.
And you have to now go in and do some planning and research to find out who's going to be hurt and how they will be hurt if I do this. If there's a possibility of people being hurt, how would that be? So you know what you're doing, and that's what people elect officials for.
Fixed, and they reversed it. Maybe we'll see that happen with some other agencies. Maybe we won't. Thankfully, it happened for this one.
But this particular one's tool and utility is actually in the name. So it doesn't even take that much for them to kind of figure out what they do. I think that in the whole burn it all down approach, they're recognizing that people on the ground have a lot of distrust and disinterest in government, and quite frankly, are upset with systems in general. So they're using that to fuel the fire to eradicate things that put America at risk. And when we talk about things like this, we're talking America's national security. For the Republican Party, which is run on the safety and protection of the United States and being a leader of the world when it comes to our military, to ensure that they are hurting people in this process where we know what our adversaries are doing. We know that they want to attack America's greatest weakness. And many of them cheered it on when President Trump got elected because they recognized his folks don't know what the hell they're doing.
Well,
Go ahead.
I was going to say,
she is very correct. And this is not a small thing. Again, this is not a small thing. This thing about the nuclear weapons and not being protected properly under the Trump administration, it just seems to be an attack, an open attack on every government institution. But the thing is that how can you actually make these kind of egregious mistakes, right? When you're abroad lecturing other people, they're actually abroad trying to tell people that the U.S. culture, that they're actually a viable future for the U.S. and that European nations should abandon education, should abandon universal health care. I mean, these guys went abroad and lectured security, saying you should pay more in security and money, right? You should pay us this. And they don't even have a hold of anything inside of their own country. Let me tell you, if you go to a European country and live, right, they definitely manage things a lot better than the U.S. manages. I'm going to give you an example. Public transport, much greater in Europe. I'm talking about efficient and ran so it works for the people. You get from A to B in a cheap with a low amount of money, and the timing works. These kind of things. What you get in the U.S. is less public transport, more highway backups, more time sitting in your car driving to work. I mean, things are spread are organized totally different. And in the nation's capital during rush hour, you can't get anywhere. And that's the nation's capital is a representation of the rest of the country. This is just because the U.S. federal government didn't want to move forward on these kind of things like European governments did. It takes 20 years to change things. You got to have a plan, and you have to have a plan for your kids, for your future, your own future. And the U.S. has zero plan. And I'm going to tell you why. You can look at it today and you can see they're not sure about main staples of society. They're not sure about healthcare, how it should be run in 2025. They're not sure about that. Who's most concerned about healthcare? The middle class and the poor. Why? Because it costs money to have the best. Who's less concerned? Wealthy people. Why? Because they have the money to pay for the best. And it goes like that the rest of the way. Most of the government services are there to support people. But you see, basic ones, education. Does it take money to get higher learning in the US? Yes. Does it in EU? No. Why? Because Americans haven't figured out that good education, access to higher education and good education is the most central way you make sure that the society flourishes. It's the most central way you do it. It's the fastest way. The most direct way to transform society is through making sure everyone has access to any education they want to have. Are rich people worried about that? No, because they have all the money they need to pay for it. Are middle class and poor worried about that? Yes, because they don't have all the money they need to pay for it, even though they work 9 to 5 jobs or full time, or maybe more than that. A lot of people. Yeah, my goodness, this is not good. But I'm gonna let this one play a little bit more.
Right to do this. They've sort of claimed that their legitimacy comes from their tech savvy, because they're so good with computers. So we're all supposed to, get out of their way, or we're supposed
to. Right, they're good with computers, but computers, human beings design computers to do the job they want. So the Congress is not designed to be a computer. It's supposed to think about people, right? Ethics and morals, these kind of things in the society they live in, according to the law of the land, right? Are tech savvy people concerned about the law of the land? No, they're hackers.
to be intimidated or at least confused by what exactly they're doing, because wow, it's such a high level, right? It's so high tech. They're so tech savvy, so competent, so good at what they're doing. How could we mere mortals possibly understand? 404 Media today reported that on the website for Doge, I don't know, Dodgy, Doge, I don't know, whatever we're supposed to call it, on their own website that Elon Musk's agency destroying group has set up for themselves. It appears that random members of the public have been able to upload joke categories and database entries onto that website that show up as if they are official Doge.gov data. And people can add random stuff to this website, not because there's like a post your public comment here section, but because apparently when Doge designed this website for itself, they didn't know how, or they forgot to make the website secure so other people couldn't post random stuff on it.
And these are the people that are going around the world lecturing others. This is who just went and lectured NATO. This is who just went and lectured security groups in the EU. These are the same people. They can't figure out how to govern the government website, right? This is the way that they're taking over, through calamity after calamity. And then they're outside lecturing the rest of the world on morals and principles. and they keep claiming only President Trump can do it like this, and he's an adjudicated sexual stalker, sexual assault person. He's been adjudicated as that, right? And accused, various times with different situations, of assault on women. The guy is a convicted, has lost. He's a fraud, a convicted fraudster. His corporation committed fraud in the hundreds of millions. In New York City, he ripped off the New York City taxpayer, right? Through playing rich, the rich people that don't pay any taxes, they come outside and throw a quarter in a homeless person's can. This is what's going on right now. These people cannot protect you. They cannot protect themselves. And being in the middle is not a good place to be when there's chaos. You need to pick order. This is nothing but disorder.
404 Media reporting today that people are posting things like, quote, these experts left their database open, ruh-roh, and quote, this is a joke of a .gov site. Remember, these are our high-tech overlords. At the Huffington Post today, they've got comment from an unnamed employee of the Defense Intelligence Agency, pointing out that among the data that Elon Musk's little group has posted online on their apparently totally insecure, half-baked website is classified information about the National Reconnaissance Office, which is the federal.
You hear this? These are the same people going abroad and lecturing Europeans on security. J.D. Vance and Pete Hegseth, the newly appointed Trump appointed heads of the Department of State and the Vice President, and he's not appointed, but the Vice President, they went and lectured Europeans on security. This is what's happening in their own country.
That informationally insecure, half-baked website is classified information about the National Reconnaissance Office, which is the federal agency that designs, builds, and maintains U.S. intelligence satellites. Quote, Doge just posted secret, no foreign, meaning nobody who's not a U.S. national is supposed to see it, no foreign info on their website. Currently, people are scrambling to check if their info has been accessed.
You hear this? Pete Hegseth, what's up with you? This took place immediately. This is the Trump administration. This is the administration that Pete Hegseth keeps mentioning and talking up to and kissing the butt and saying that, oh, nobody can do it like President Trump. Well, here's a national defense issue right here. He went abroad to lecture Europeans saying that the real problem is inside of their societies. It's not outside. It's not Russian interference in elections. It's inside. It's freedom of speech. This is the same people right here. They're releasing their own top secret information, security information.
This comes on the heels of Elon Musk telling reporters in the Oval Office that we should all be shocked. The American people should be shocked by the scandalous discovery he and his high-tech team made while apparently pawing through Social Security records and data in that part of the government's guts.
But they haven't shown anybody. So you don't know if it's real because they haven't shown anyone anything. Meanwhile, what? This is being shown by the government. They're saying that these fools are screwing up, and they're not even taking note of this. They're acting like all they have to do is ignore it as long as they don't comment on it, or as long as they minimize the conversation, no problem. And American people are letting them get away with murder, basically.
Nobody who's not a U.S. national is supposed to see it. No foreign info on their website. Currently, people are scrambling to check if their info has been accessed. This
Defense Intelligence Agency employee who requested anonymity to avoid retaliation from senior leaders has said this. Doge just posted secret no foreign info on their website about intelligence community headcount. So currently people are scrambling to see if their info has been accessed, said one Defense Intelligence Agency employee who requested anonymity. That means they don't want anyone to know who their name is because their bosses will punish them, meaning Pete Hegseth, the boss, is going to punish them for making a comment like this, for pointing out that Doge, a new government agency, released top secret information that could put federal agents' lives at risk and Americans at risk.
This comes on the heels of Elon Musk telling reporters in the Oval Office that we should all be shocked. The American people should be shocked by the scandalous discovery he and his high-tech team made while apparently pawing through Social Security records and data in that part of the government's guts. Because he's allowed to do that, I guess. He said the scandal that he and his team had uncovered in Social Security data is that there are people in the Social Security database who are listed as being 150 years old. And we don't know exactly what Mr. Musk was talking about because
he's not going to show it to you, so you can't quantify or qualify it. Really, you only have his statement and that's it. It could be 1 million or it could be 1.
He's seeing stuff that I think he's not allowed to see, and neither are we. But today, people started gingerly asking if perhaps Mr. Musk just didn't know that in an older version of the programming language that is used by the Social Security Administration, when you didn't have a date to enter in a particular field, it would code it as 150 years ago. It would code it as 1875.
So in other words, he was false with the statement that he made, the claims of fraud. You see, so he used that lie, that one thing that he didn't even research himself properly to justify breaking into the Treasury Department. And again, American citizens are still allowing this. This is the type of leadership they allow to represent them, who they are as a people.
The year 1875 is essentially an error message to let you know that there isn't a real date in that record, and so you should treat that as an error and find out what went wrong.
Yes.
Does he know that, or does he really think those are records for 150-year-old people?
Well, the people that he told it to really believe it. The people that fell for the disinformation, they really believe it. And the people that fell for this argument that was crafted at a desk by a billionaire or other oligarchs, people trying to scam Trump and his cohorts, they gave people the impression that this was an emergency, what they found, and that it justifies why they are there. And American people are still going for it.
Does he know what he's looking at when he's pawing through your Social Security records? Remember, it's their technical prowess and know-how that's supposed to impress us and make us think this is somehow different than when a far-right, power-mad, doomed president tried to do this exact same thing in 1973. We're supposed to be intimidated here. That measles outbreak we told you about last night in West Texas, it has now doubled in size as of today. The CDC also has fired as many as 1,300 people today. The intelligence staff at the Department of Energy sent its staff an urgent...
And they're overseas lecturing Europeans.
...warning about how to respond to Elon Musk's...
Health is security also. So they're aware of that. So if there's a health crisis, they're aware that there are security concerns related to it. How many people die? Who? How does it make the U.S. government or even private industry? How does it harm private industry? How does it harm everyday people? How does it harm the ability to respond to threats? Things like this. Well, here you
team
go.
Seeking access to sensitive classified materials about nuclear weapons. And at the National warning about how to... The intelligence staff at the Department of Energy sent its staff an urgent warning about how to respond to Elon Musk's team seeking access to sensitive classified materials about nuclear weapons.
You guys not concerned, huh? Well, the obvious fear would be Trump has shown classified information to others, and the judge dismissed it. Throughout the case or whatever. I don't know, Judge Cannon, right? With the Mar-a-Lago, that was connected to Mar-a-Lago. He took thousands of pages, maybe tens of thousands of pages of top secret information, also related to nuclear stuff, and shared it with other people. Nobody knows who. Nobody knows. Only Trump knows, but nobody, and only the lawyers know. But the public doesn't know everyone that was shared to, and of course even the government doesn't know, because Trump has never been made to be held accountable, so there's no way of knowing. But people aren't concerned enough about this. Like, this right here is basically tampering, so he is going to give this information to Russia, and Russia is going to pawn this information to China, pretty much. Whatever information comes out, that's what Trump is going to do, because Trump is beholden to Putin, and Putin is beholden to China. Economically, Putin militarily, Putin is beholden to China, but yet Putin got his hands on a good one, which is a good ripe fat pig, which is Trump, basically. And that pig, he doesn't care about any of these things, only cares about himself. If you don't appease him, he feels like that was an attack on him personally. And and he really doesn't have any great feelings about his own country. Like, Trump feels like the US is a pile of shit country, for some reason. And he doesn't feel like he lives in the greatest country on earth. And he's said that plenty of times, so he's dismantling it, not even dismantling it, not just that, but he is circumventing the US government, the Congress, the Senate, and everybody else, because virtue of the Congress and the Senate being the lawmakers, right? He circumvented everything, the American people. So American people should be very, very worried about this. European nations are seeing it at a distance, and they know what that means, so they're worried about it. But American people, what are you going to do? Because everyone is going to learn from what you do.
And at the national,
and people are going to adjust based on what you do. If there's no pushback, other governments are going to move, obviously, to protect themselves from whatever chaos is going to break out in the US because of this type of governance, because if your nuclear weapons are not safe, and if your government doesn't know what they're doing, they're just cutting off all types of government agencies that are there to protect people, you guys are going to be in serious trouble.
Nuclear Security Administration today, which is responsible for keeping our nukes safe, they fired a significant portion of their staff today, hundreds of staff members. Yesterday, we got word that Trump and Musk's little squad of genius web developers and software engineers, the folks who may have accidentally posted the classified information on their website and left open some sort of back door so that random members of the public can post stuff on it. That genius squad has now reportedly been sent into the IRS. So now that group is in there with your tax information.
So now it's the IRS. Yeah, again, American people have nothing to say about this, and the Congress, they have nothing to say about this. Of course, again, why would you want someone into your financial records that you can't get? You can't. He's going to examine everyone else but himself. So therefore, he is going to harm a whole lot of people because look, if you're going to commit crimes like this, the first thing you're going to think of is your exit strategy. How do you get out once the gig is up? So people should start asking, how long do you think a private individual like Elon Musk has to stay inside of the United States? Because this man is going to, once the American people wake up, this man is going to run. He's going to run. He can run. He doesn't have to stay around for the last day like Trump does. So, do you want him having all this information?
While tonight we get word that at the IRS, just ahead of tax filing season, they are about to fire thousands, maybe 9,000 people who actually work there to handle your taxes. The combination of the smash and grab by the supposedly high-tech team and the mass firing of people who actually do know what they're doing means real material harm is being done to our country. And it will take a long time to repair it when we finally get to start.
And, I concur. And I think she's right on point, Rachel Maddow. But again, the media right now is not going to put that extra edge on it of concern, like fire, like a person screaming fire. But people need to go outside and scream fire, like right now, because there is a fire. And, usually a lot of times you will see social media platforms today. I'm sorry about this, but that will use headlines to try to, clickbait you. But no, there is a fire right now, and everybody needs to stick their head up from whatever other bullshit they're doing and say, hey, damn, wait a second, what's going on? Like, do not be the dumbass that is waiting for things to hit the fan before you wake up. Like, these people are dismantling government agencies which support society. That means how you get access to food, how your food is protected, how your food is administered, how your water is administered, what's going to happen with your air, what's happening with your nuclear bombs, what happens with anything, your intelligence, your information, what happens to you, what happens to the prisons. Like, could you be thrown in prison and just forgotten about just because somebody deletes your name from existence? This is what American people are up against right now. Right now. Like, you're not living in a democracy anymore. You lived in a democracy where you complained, because democracies have freedom of speech to complain. But you took away the Congress, which is your actual voice, which is supposed to be an equal voice. And right now, it has no voice. It's been circumvented by the executive branch, which is supposed to be a co-equal branch of government, but has taken over and effectively killed the United States Congress, and effectively, therefore, killed the Senate. I mean, the Senate can't write new laws. It can take something Congress has written and debate over it, but it's not writing them. They can take some action, some other actions, but you can see the Senate is not, is also quiet. The Senate is quiet too. So, all those separate but equal branches, that's no more. The Supreme Court has effectively been bribed, by the same people that have gotten Trump elected, so, and these are billionaires, right? So, American people, I don't know what to say. You've been the victims of a lot of disinformation, and in the Game of Thrones, that matters. It's not just about your technology, your weaponry. It's not just about your form of government, but disinformation is a weapon in itself. And that's a weapon that the American people did not take serious enough. And when you have these type of people amassing this type of wealth and not paying their fair share, the combination of those two things, which the rich people are to blame. They don't pay their fair share in taxes. And this is what's come out of it. What's come out of it is that they are making it very clear that they do not respect the democracy. And therefore, they do not respect your human or civil rights. You know? So I don't know how American people are going to react to that. American people should also know that a lot of people are happy about that. A lot of people in the world are happy that you are in shambles, because they're going to continue to be. By the way, people aren't happy about Trump, so don't interpret that to be like, yeah, because the way we did things in the past was bad. No, they don't like the way you do things now either. So don't go out there thinking that they like you more because of Trump. No, they don't. They respect you less because of Trump, but they're happy Trump is such a dumbass. If you can understand that. Now, here's my final message. I'm gonna leave y'all out on some Malcolm Nance. I'm sorry, my goodness. The Black Spy guy, and this is just yesterday. And this is probably one of his last messages before he leaves the country, because people like Donald Trump are coming after him because he's had a lifetime of service in the military. And this is his message to American people, to the American citizens.
September of 2016, the United States has now reached the pinnacle of the national security nightmare that is the Donald Trump administration. In this episode, which I'm going to get exceptionally shouty about, the United States is starting to capitulate openly and publicly to Russia. But let's start off with first things first. The person sitting in the chair in the Oval Office, Donald Trump, gave control of the government to a drug-addled billionaire, the richest man in the world, Elon Musk, who apparently is president of the United States. Musk is dismantling the entirety of the U.S. government right now. And if you haven't looked, just in the last few hours, they fired 3,500 Park Service rangers and personnel. They're going through the intelligence community with a scythe, and to cap it all off, the disaster that is Tulsi Gabbard, a woman who is openly believed to be an ally of Russia and quite possibly who is sympathetic to Russian intelligence, is now the director of national intelligence for the United States. It's like Nikita Khrushchev said, we don't have to invade you. You will destroy yourself from the inside. And here we are, destroying ourselves from the inside. Former heroin addict, man who eats animals off the road, who had openly admitted to having brain worms, who doesn't believe in vaccines, who Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was confirmed as the health secretary. And what was his first act? To claim that he's going to fire every nutritionist in government because I guess taking steroids and eating his pill supplements is what all children are going to be encouraged to do. This will weaken the average American's health, and the health is now in the hand of a former drug addict. I guess he'll start recommending heroin as a weight loss treatment instead of Ozempic. This directly affects our national security. And we're just waiting. It's probably a matter of minutes before Kash Patel, take a man who is completely unqualified, who we have learned this week during his hearings for to be the director of the FBI may secretly have been orchestrating the firing of as many as 4,000 FBI special agents and staff. In fact, they are going after any person in the FBI who took part in the investigations of the January 6th attack. That means that the United States law enforcement will be run by an open advocate of QAnon, the January 6th attacks, and who will pretty much turn what remains of the FBI into the Gestapo. Oh, I'm sorry. I said that wrong. The Gestapo. This is an absolute disaster, but nothing has proven itself.
Yeah, sorry about that. They're decapitating They decapitated it. So you're not going to have protections over your drinking water, over your medicine. The private industry is taking over, and they don't want any government oversight. They don't want a functioning health department. They don't want a functioning police department. They're turning the police into a Gestapo, and it's not there to, if you don't own property, you're pretty much not going to be treated too well. And even if you do own property and you're the victim of discrimination, that's probably not going to be something they'll be interested in dealing with. If your records are being controlled and stolen by private industry, they're not going to protect you from that anymore. And if your information from your government, your security, the FBI, CIA is handed over to Putin and handed over to China, because Putin is beholden to China and Trump is beholden to Putin. If that happens, basically you've lost all the advantage in the struggle for trade, and you've lost all the advantage in the struggle to defend yourselves as a nation. That would be total capitulation. So American citizens should be worried.
Itself as a bigger disaster than Donald Trump's foreign policy. We mentioned it last week that he went to Israel, or went and spoke with the Israelis, and said he was going to have the United States take over Gaza, ethnically cleanse 2.2 million people, and build it out into a resort. The level of terrorism that is going to hit this country over the next 4 years quite possibly could make 9/11 look like a holiday.
Now, see, if you think Putin is going to help the United States in terms of terrorist acts within his borders, that's not true. That's a fault. He will help as long as it's to Russia's advantage to help. And it's not to Russians' advantage to help the United States. So he will, if anything, use his assets like Trump to mislead the American people to the end. And so you remember when I was saying under Biden's administration, and not just his administration, but globally, there's been a lot of attacks, suspected terrorist attacks, that have not been called terrorist attacks because they've come to no conclusion. And in the U.S., it's been the same. There's been some events like this bridge, these type of accidents that occur. Well, Russians are primarily, that's one of their primary tools outside of disinformation. Accidents, attacks that look like accidents, done by people that are not, that are, working for the U.S., working for the Russian government, but they mask themselves as other things, right? Now, so they can make sabotage, and sabotage has been big since even just before, since 2014, after Russia invaded Ukraine the first time. Sabotage in the West has been big, and it continued. So there's a lot of events that have already happened, which haven't been called that are probably going to pick up under the Trump administration. But Trump, his FBI won't inform the American people, I guarantee you.
He is personally saving the Islamic State and many other terrorist groups that have yet to start. Quite possibly Syria, which is just said after taking the government that they will not be allowing terrorism from their country. They will not be allowing attacks on Israel from their country. They are looking to be a neutral arbiter in the Middle East. The average person on the street, all those fighters are going to get big mad at the United States.
American corporations are going to be kicked out of the Middle East while Trump is the president, and some other places. I mean, because he's given, even though Putin, he struggled greatly. The country has struggled because of the war in Ukraine. Some of the smaller things that he's done have been very effective. The small things, and those small things, the window is open for him to do more of that. China to do more of that under Trump, because because of how Trump perceives governance as a cheap business tool. He doesn't think about the future. He thinks about it in terms of going bankrupt. And in his mind, the things he's doing are going to make America bankrupt, but then you can start over better. That's what he's thinking about. And he's not telling people that. So what it means is he wants the whole country to go to hell so it can be remade over without a 14th Amendment.
States. But Malcolm, what do I care? I'm back home in the United States. There are millions of American citizens living overseas whose lives right now are in danger because Donald Trump has making stupid comments about wiping out an entire ethnic class of people. Remember a year ago where people were out shouting Genocide Joe and Killer Kamala? Well, that's ridiculous. That is now the official policy of the United States to make the Palestinians walk somewhere. Now, what could this do to us? Well, it could collapse the government of our good ally, Jordan, and turn that country into a terrorist state. It could destabilize our good ally, Egypt. It could cause all the other Arab states to have their leadership assassinated by terrorists who are allies to Donald Trump. I'm looking at you, Saudi Arabia. It may have just saved Iran. And Trump is talking about using nuclear weapons if somebody comes after him. This is absolute madness. If I were
people said they voted for Trump because they want less war, but the truth is Trump wants more war than Biden wanted. And that's the bottom line. And he didn't say that, but when you analyze his thinking and his talking points, which people have had plenty of time to do because Trump's been around for over a decade, right? And he spent 4 of those years governing. So he's been running for over 8 years and he's resided for over 4. So people have, been able to dissect his thinking. But Trump, people have always known, intelligent people have always known that Trump hates Arabs, hates Africans, and will use more brutal ways of dealing with people, not dealing with them on their own terms, not meeting them where they want to be met, right? And then starting from there. But no, Trump doesn't care about meeting you, man. He will just assassinate. And then you don't know if they're going to conspire with Russia to assassinate African leaders. You don't know how Putin and Trump will split it up because Putin is not known to be very democratic himself within his own country. So he's known to be a person that hoards wealth with oligarchs. So minority countries, emerging countries, probably going to lean towards China. They know Putin's record, which is why they've been dealing with the United States. But now they see the United States is turning towards Putin. So China is pretty much going to pick up most of the pieces, and Europe, it looks like. The EU and China. If you ask me, that's what it looks like. But in any case,
on the National Security Council, if I were sitting in any briefing as an intelligence professional, I would be just this manic because this is crazy. The job of the President of the United States is to maintain stability and keep America safe. And he's having a grand old time making the world dangerous for us. In fact, he made it even more dangerous by eliminating the agency John F. Kennedy himself created, the U.S. Agency for International Development, which was going to use America food, resources, and soft power to bring people on the side of democracy by providing humanitarian assistance, by providing medicine.
Right. And Pete Hegseth said in the NATO security meeting that they want to use hard power. That means war, and soft power can be used to get people to cooperate. That's other means. You can talk to them. Again, it's meeting them where they are with something they can use right off the bat. And instead, Trump, they want to remove aid and just go to straight out killing and murdering and weapons dealing and things like that while they conspire with Russia, with Putin to do it towards other nations. It's real. This is real, y'all. You should take note of this. But while he does it, he doesn't